I and the rest of the PCs basically got an option of patrons to help us with our main quest, and we went with the little girl because others were things like Tiamat or a lich. The way it ended up working out was that we were rewarded for following her commands with certain bonuses and happy feelings, as the DM described them. She didn't really tell us to do anything bad, but sometimes they were strange or nonsensical. Fighting in a particular way or acting in a particular way during a conversation with an NPC.
Sounds like simp behaviour to me, boys.
Before we knew it, though, we'd started to change our character's approach to situations to match what we expected her to say, and oftentimes we preempted her and did a good job. We'd get an even bigger reward. By that point in the story, we basically loved her and saw her as the party mum. So when things started moving into more uncomfortable territory, we didn't mind so much. We all started as good aligned characters, but by the midpoint, we were enthusiastically feeding our prisoners to her, something she prepared us for by training us to knock out the bad guys instead of killing them. We'd gotten very good at it, and there's stuff we did to entertain her that, while all fade to black, I would never have seen myself doing in an IRL game.
So you guys know where this story is going then? You guys get what we're in for today? Let's get into it, will we?
Well, if you really want to know, it's worth noting that nothing really directly involves her. The DM was female, of course. So I think we let her get away with a lot of stuff, but there was a definite line drawn. She liked me, the barbarian, for warmth at night, giving him a bonus to hit die during short rests for it. But the more uncomfortable things had us punish the party's cleric for perceived slights in front of her, which became more aggressive over the course of the campaign. It was apparently something she and the DM talked about on the side to make sure she was comfortable with it. I think the absolute most borderline thing she did was convince the paladin to suck on her feet, which made the player gag IRL. When the boon was revealed to be a one-a-day lightning bolt, though, he ended up doing it a lot more. Fell during the campaign and converted his levels to warlock in order to serve her more directly. Stuff like that. I'd be a lot more pissed off if I felt like we were being forced, but we never had to make any rules to follow or not follow compulsions, generally going along with them because they felt like the natural progression of our characters. Don't get me wrong, it was super fucked up and weird, but when my character went from happy-go-lucky battle ranger to a fanatic that literally served as her mount in some of the late game battles, it felt like it happened because of a real in-character decision. As I said before, it was kind of a gradual thing. She started by getting close to me at night, and I thought it was pretty adorable, even when we realised she was clearly some sort of monster. Eventually she requested I carry her when we walked, and I wasn't a dex barb, so why the fuck not, right? When she said she'd occasionally use spells to help us in battle if we let her ride me piggyback during the fights. This did give me some penalties, but eventually she gave me a magic item that would get rid of the penalties related to balance and such. Paraphrasing, but it was something like a leather bar to be held in the mouth, granting the user the ability to bear an ally on them with the grace of a beast. Thing had straps of crackling magic energy that she held, and it ended up looking cool enough that I said yes.
How did you not recognise the gimp? You put on the gimp uniform. Okay, it looks cool, guys. Magic item though, isn't it? Is it? Look,
did it have ducks on it?
Is this garb though? I remember whenever we give out gimp suits we
with
did.
Ducks on it?
Well, yeah, it was ducks on it. Yeah, embroidered. Yeah.
It also made it so that you couldn't be knocked prone because it let you run on all fours. I realise how stupid this sounds, but I had honestly missed the implications of the running on all fours part until she eventually got out the saddle. At some point during that, my actual archetype changed. Since he'd gotten progressively more aggressive about protecting her, it was actually pretty hilarious playing a big scary barb that would attack a random caravan for a head pat or a kiss in the cheek. Well, near the beginning, one of the things she demanded as her patron were things to eat. Things like the best portion of her hunt, and all sorts of expensive sweets when we were in town. If we fed her something she especially liked, she'd give us a potion or something like that in return. However, the tipping point with that, where stuff started to get a little weird, was when we ended up basically starving in the wilderness. No provisions or anything. After killing some bandits, we legitimately considered eating them because they hadn't had any food either. Paladin gave a hard no and buried them. The girl convinces us to distract him as best we can for a while, and when we come back, there's a delicious feast waiting for us. Puddings, meat and wine. She says she conjured it for us. The cleric and I do our best to not let the paladin realise the graves were disturbed. She makes me feed her while
Right, can we play a game?
Feeds the pally.
Can we play a game? Play bingo for Spot the Fetish?
Well, she personally feeds the pally. Pally has no idea, but his player was there for all of it. Past this point, she convinces us to feed her bodies more and more often behind the paladin's back, rewarding us for sneaking around for more and more offerings. Eventually, the party tracks down and captures a horrible murderer in one of our adventures. And I'm in a situation where I'm alone with and pondering killing the guy. She sort of pops out of nowhere and offers to get rid of him. This was the first time it was someone alive, but she does it in one gulp, so I don't feel so bad. I tell the paladin he escaped. They ended up doing this more and more with bad guys, and she even gets the cleric in on it. Admittedly, partially because the DM was tired of splitting the party with just one of us doing things, convincing her that it's just a sacrifice of sinful person to help pay for hers. Cleric ends up getting super enthusiastic about this and starts leading people she thinks are bad away from town. Honey anointing gets involved. It was more of an all-in-one bite sort of thing, at least with the live ones. Our saving grace was that she refused to eat anything the party didn't feed her, so we didn't need to worry about her devouring a town. That was always one of the nice things. She was spoiled, but when we asked her to do something, or told her not to do something, she'd listen most of the time. Sometimes she'd punish us for it later in some fashion, but not in a mean-spirited way. And I'm not sure I'd call her a vor character, at least not in the exclusive sense. That one sticks out in my memory, but she was pretty weird in general. She also had a habit of turning people into monsters, which, this come to think of it, is why that one Anod's idea made me think of it. If she liked someone, she'd usually bless them with a form she thought was appropriate, letting them keep their mind and follow the party if possible. We eventually had what amounted to an army/zoo following us. People she didn't like, personally, she turned into furniture for the camp. Most of the time, they did something to really deserve it, though my tankard was made from a barmaid she thought was being too flirty with me. On the plus side, it magically refilled itself. Is this the old skeleton party? It's drunks?
That actually, oh my god, that is. Is this? Like, Garb, explain yourself. Were we given an altered version of the story, and this is what actually happened?
She never made anything for herself or purchased anything for herself either. I remember asking her why she wanted us to buy her sweets when she was obviously more than capable of making them, and she said that she didn't want anything unless it was from us. Might have been a witch thing. Cleric ended up taking advantage of this, and would go on length describing the pretty frilly dresses he'd buy and make our patron wear, just for the sheer ridiculousness of it. It displeased her greatly, but she'd always wear them, even if said cleric reportedly had it coming later. I even got in on it, and bought her a magic ribbon with a featherfall on it. She spent a long time complaining about how she didn't need magic items, and how it was demeaning to wear something so poorly made, but she never took it off either.
Right, you slimy human maggots. We has been working hard at Neckbeardia to get the bestest little people that monies can buy. We got all the boys here. We got the boys, the lizard boys, vampire boys, all the boys over at Neckbeardia. Oh, we also got some pretty girls too. But I can't really make out which one's the boys and which one's the girls sometimes. But anyway, I need more monies to get more daggers, so get on over and order some now, you filthy pigs.
Every video that we post, we're going to be giving away all of our homebrew content to one lucky winner. Every video. All you have to do to be in with a chance to win is to be subscribed, leave a comment, and like this video. And today's lucky winner is this guy. Well done! Well done! To claim your prize, just send an email to neckbeardiacontact@gmail.com. Now let's get back to the video. The game was 5e. Paladin was lawful good, an oath of the crown, had a big investment into the idea of civilization as a sacred concept and stood for law as being the principle that allowed people to be good. From the beginning, he was going to be a collision course philosophically with our patron for reasons obvious. We were steered into a number of situations that caused him to question his beliefs. One in particular involved a peasant rebellion over some fairly petty bureaucratic tax disagreements. The kingdom had to rush in to contain the conflict, to avoid it spreading, and some kids died. It wasn't even the knights and such being irresponsible, just relatively unavoidable collateral damage. It wasn't just a cutscene either. The paladin had been the one to call the higher-ups when he realised things were going out of control. He knew it was the right thing to do, and the whole group agreed it had saved lives in the long run. But the kids had been NPCs he'd liked. From a strictly utilitarian standpoint, it was the right thing to do. But I think it really hits this player. I think what I liked about it was that it absolutely could have been the sort of thing to reaffirm the paladin's faith. The parents, innkeepers for the place that we were staying, didn't even blame him for it. DM let him decide for himself what it meant, and instead of refining him, it rotted away at him. Our patron told him that the hurting meant he was a good person, and that she liked that about him. She told him death wasn't something that was measured out by bankers in the wild, and that you should simply live by your desire to either save or destroy. I don't remember exactly, obviously, but that was the gist. I think that's why he was the PC that ended up neutral, rather than evil. Serving her also let him put away his guilt for a while, and just enjoy himself. She liked pampering him. That's a fairly broad overview and example. There was a lot more in ways of little moments where the paladin gradually became more dependent on her for leadership. He liked doing what she said because she was kind and warm to him, forgiving and gentle, in high contrast to how she treated the cleric. But that was another matter. Me, she treated like a pet, but she treated him like a subordinate. Eventually, he'd started talking about attending to her as a point of pride. We admittedly laughed about that at the table, but he RP'd it well between the occasional chuckle. The cleric specifically worships Hyun, which is one of the less cringy love goddesses from Forgotten Realm. It isn't about lust and fertility so much as the find beauty in all things and love everyone ideal. Neutral god, and super enthusiastic about role-playing that philosophy. Our patron loved leading her into situations where she was faced with a creature that was especially loathsome in appearance, either in battle or in social stances. When she inevitably caved to disgust or rage, she'd be told that she'd feel, and they'd get punished for it. I'd actually forgotten about the troll that followed us around for a while because the little witch did something to make it fall in love with the cleric, forcing her to respond with compassion and understanding, instead of trying to convince her it was wrong. She basically sort of made her think it was her that was the vile creature, and showed Hyun's grace by punishing her and nurturing her so that no creature would be seen as beyond affection. She only really talked this way to the cleric, for what it's worth. Anyway, I remember she began bringing up obvious stuff at first, like her scowling at a zombie, but over time the cleric started to confess things to her, like feeling hatred towards an enemy. Eventually, the cleric started making stuff up for attention and confessing that she lied, getting her even more punishment. That's when stuff got weird, when she started looking for excuses to misbehave, when she'd kneel down in front of the much smaller girl and beg for her grace, started calling her Holy One, and eventually Goddess. This was around the time we asked them to move it to after-session private stuff. At some point, she even began collecting old clothes her supposed corruptor gifted her after they had been worn out. I think even the patron thought it was weird she wanted them, but she humoured her. Cleric also seemed to enjoy pretending to be perfect in public, unless told to act otherwise.
Right, this video is going to be called the All Simp Party because they're buying underwear.
I mostly already talked about the barbarian's slide into evil, but I suppose I can detail it a bit more. The big thing with her and him was that while they were master and pet, there was another undercurrent. It's like another Anon said. With him, she kind of tended to relax and just sort of let herself be a spoiled kid around him. She wasn't exactly a smiling, happy child, but she and him had a weird parental sort of dynamic. I say that, but I don't think the DM expected it to evolve that way. He cared about her and would do anything for her, but he was also the only one who ever told her no. Occasionally she'd punish him for it, but even when she was really angry, like when stuff had gone pretty horribly wrong, she would still come every night for a body warm. My character fought very hard because he wanted to protect her, and she seemed to soften up to him very gradually over the course of the campaign. The DM never really revealed if it was just another one of her manipulations, but it didn't matter to him. He wanted her to be happy and safe. In the very final battle, she whispered, "Papa," into his ear, in the quietest voice possible, like she was literally scared of the world. Sent him into a frenzy. and when he died in the fight, she brought him back, even though she basically had what she wanted. Just called him stupid and climbed back on top of him to rest. Basic campaign premise was that an ancient war between several gods got restarted. Several lesser entities, including our patron, were trying to use the chaos to move up in the hierarchy. Because the gods were vulnerable during the war, we managed to get an artifact necessary to slay one of the current goddesses. It didn't personally land the killing blow, but I got the paladin/warlock into position to do it. Once the fallout settled, she was granted proper divine status. The cleric was made the head of the new church/grand coven. The paladin/warlock, her champion/footstool. And after I was revived, I was not permitted any official functions because I was a barbarian and disallowed from leaving her side ever again. Ever again? Go home, make a big dinner fair, boy.
No one's ever going to get that.
As far
fair, boy. Big dinner.
As far as
this is like, guys, we're gonna have to tell the story now.
No,
aren't we?
no.
Right.
As far as why she said it, the party had joked at one point that I was starting to look like your dad, so she chain lightninged them. I think it's pretty clear that she was evil. That's not super surprising when you remember that she was an ancient mother of all witches. That said, she at least seemed to become less so over the course of the campaign, and she had certain roles that made her easier to deal with. She was incredibly manipulative, and she seemed to have a knack for finding people's desires and exploiting them, just like any proper fae/witch. While in retrospect, I'm pretty sure the cleric's player really enjoyed the thought of what was happening to her character. I think the character herself had some other things going on. If I can remember her backstory right, the whole reason that she was a cleric of Sion was because her family raised her to be beautiful and perfect, but never showed her any real love beyond when she succeeded. She joined the Church of Sion because they talked about unconditional love, and then grew disenchanted with them once she saw how many of her adherents were just as shallow as her parents. The cleric was actually sent on a pilgrimage to discover the true will of Sion when she got caught up in all of this. And that was the thing. While I can't say what went on in the private sessions after a game, I think the cleric really wanted someone who would love her, even when she fucked up or acted ugly. I don't know the specific sort of affection our little witch had, but she did seem to genuinely like the cleric, and it didn't seem to waver when she failed or got dragged through the mud. Manipulated or not, she seemed happy. I remember when she got angry because she wasn't allowed to join the paladin in feet washing duties. As far as sacrifice gathering, mostly that was whenever bandits attacked us on the road, or when we were in town and found someone fairly heinous that we could justify turning into food. Cleric liked to lure perverts into alleys and then feed them to our little witch. Has the world trembled at the might of the one true Loli? Well, after devouring the previous nature goddess, she took her seat and pretty much immediately blessed the world with a somewhat huge boom of fertility. Forests overrunning cities, crops yielding huge harvests, women becoming pregnant with octuplets, that sort of thing. She basically said that more people in the world meant there would be more bad people she could eat. Prior to this, the previous nature deity had been trying more or less to starve humanity and the other civilized races in order to keep them from advancing too quickly. She also immediately absorbed the temples of the old goddesses and threatened to eat them if they didn't start making her cakes and candies as tribute. She demanded the same tribute from any territories that want her official protection. All the hags have also been turned into little girls. This upset them greatly, but they're coping. The Pantheon itself is freaking out because these weren't small first day revisions. Her angels are also gingerbread girls with pretty bows. She claims she didn't choose the design. They fly to the various gallows and offer payment for the people to be executed so that they can be taken to their realm and eaten there instead. If they aren't murderers, she generally just gives them jobs since the previous goddess attendants all rebelled and had to be turned into furnishings for her throne room. My barbarian apparently has a full-time job trying to keep her from doing anything too evil when she gets bored. Cleric is busy managing the new church, teaching redemption and self-love, also discipline. She manages to find many men and women with her own particular inclinations. Oh, and the paladin/warlock has been spending a lot of time trying to get her weird army into proper shape. Apparently everyone we'd fed to her over the years had been trapped in her stomach, so when she gained her own realm, they all appeared there as souls. Any of her worshippers who die go there, as usual. God, I wish that was me.
Well, I'm convinced this was actually a retelling of the old skeleton party, if I be honest with you guys.
Vor style.
Yeah. Although, honestly, I kind of do like the idea of the campaign. I do like the idea of I loved that, do you remember that story we did ages ago, and it was about the gods, it was like demigods, it was really good?
Yeah,
Did you you lead that one? I can't remember if we didn't. We definitely did.
I remember we did do one about demigods.
Yeah, and I really loved that idea, and I love the concept, and I like the idea of, like, you know, I think this is one of the few times I've seen a DM player character actually work. As terrified as that is.
As it sounds, but
it actually is the only time I think I've seen a DM player character actually be utilized really well.
Yeah.
Even though it's kind of, and I love the way the DM. See, this is the mark of a good DM. Yeah, it's a horror show. Yeah, it's a shit show. But the DMs managed to work it in such a way and do it so gently and easily that everyone's like, yeah, it kind of makes sense.
That's alright.
You know, until, like, you see, you just went right in, it's like, yeah, put the Gimson on. I like the way it's like a slow boil.
Yeah.
You know, would that be a better way to put it? I don't know. I thought this one was actually, I expected it a lot worse.
So did I.
Whenever
After the first post, I expected worse.
See, whenever I skimmed over this the first time, I was like, oh, jeez, what is this all about? But see, actually, like, Lily going over the whole thing.
Mm-hmm. It's not bad.
Not actually half as bad. I can't believe I'm actually saying this.
Yeah.
Not as bad as what I expected. Well done, you.
Well done, DM.
Yeah.
Yes, clap. Let us know what you think down below. And while you're down there, check out the links to the website, to the model, subclasses, all that good shit.
Also, you know, a lot of you guys have been asking for, like, longer story times and stuff like that. And I do want to do story times again, but the problem is, no one watches the story times. The videos don't never do very well. So if you yourself have your own story time, we don't really use it that much, but post it to the subreddit, and we might cover it, because I do want to do more actual...
If we get enough of them, and we see that you're interested in it... Then,
and if people actually watch them, like, if people are actually into it, because we're getting this all the time. People are asking, oh, why do you guys not do story times anymore? It's like, they never do as well. They're not as popular as doing threads and stuff like that, and that's genuinely the reason.
We could do story times all day long, but...
It's just they never
don't
perform.
Get watched.
Yeah, exactly. That's really the key problem. So if you yourself have a story time that you would like to share with us, definitely go ahead, post in the subreddit.
Like, I know it's Reddit, but like it's literally one of the only places that we can go.
Yeah, well, where
to be able to post something.
Well, where else is there that you can post your story times for us?
Discord's cursed, so no way. So it's only the Reddit. So, but we're only using it for that, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's not the end of the world,
exactly.
Like, you know, and like it's not like put it as we're the moderators on it, so it's like you can put. I'll let you guys do whatever you want as long as you don't get something banned.
Yes,
like just do the bare minimum.
Bare minimum, guys.
That's all I'm asking for you guys. But anyway, like, I hope you guys enjoyed this one. Also, let us know what you think about the new model advert, because I thought it was kind of funny.
Mm-hmm.
Meg was like, oh god, do I really have to do this? It's like, yes.
I'm convinced James gets a raging boner whenever I do my work voice. Fucking loves it.
Right, guys, hope you guys enjoy it.
He doesn't deny it!
Right, talk to you guys later. See you later, right?
Bye.